So listen to this. Everyone is going nuts about Neymar right now, and rightfully so. But when they act like they've never seen something like this before, there's only one thing on my mind. Have you guys forgotten about teenage Neymar already? I mean, goddamn, you could literally make an argument that he was a better player back then than he is now. At 17 years of age, he played amongst grown men and still hit 64 goal contributions, averaging one every 78 minutes. Ballon d'Or Yamal was averaging one every 105 minutes. He traumatized the league so much so that at one point, he was 10th in the Ballon d'Or rankings, despite being outside of Europe, all while still a teenager, with no Barcelona PR whatsoever, and still no one in South America had ever managed to do so, and there is no denying it at this moment. Neymar is the single greatest wonder kid the world has seen in the 21st century. I don't think some of you really understand just how crazy his rise was. I mean, right from the moment he was born, there also a stack in his favor. When the guy was 4 months old, his family was driving to see some relatives when a car swerved into the side of the road, crashing violently into them. As his father regained consciousness, the pain he felt was so bad he yelled out to the mom that he thought he was going to die. Turns out he had broken his hip and would even be forced to retire from football following the accident. But what ended up scaring him the most was the moment he realized Neymar wasn't in his seat. He thought he had been flown out of the car, that he had died. Thankfully, the mom ended up finding him under her seat, badly hurt, with blood running down his head, but alive without a single breaking bone. At just 6 years of age, he was just running the stands of a futsal pitch when a scout named Betinho, the same man who discovered Robinho, saw him. Noticing his speed and the precision with which he zigzagged between the seats was enough for him to tell that he would be the next great, immediately contacting everyone he could and landing him to Portuguesa Santista, taking him from the stands to the actual futsal pitch. You gotta realize this, Neymar instantly became a local phenom. He was so good he made the newspaper all the time. People came from far away to watch him. The futsal court was his playground. Ironically, they said even Robinho went down there once just to see the kid everyone was talking about. And in similar fashion, so did another Santos legend, Zito. Actually, oddly enough, he supposedly had been told to go watch him by a famous Santos fanatic, Alemão, who for some reason had Santos badge tattooed on his forehead. And well, pretty much everywhere. Moving on, the point is, the moment Zito saw him, he pretty much ran to the president of Santos, telling him not only to take the kid, but to give him a contract and to make it a long one, because the kid was just 10, and somehow he was convincing enough that despite the fact that Santos didn't even have a youth team young enough to accommodate a 10-year-old, they ended up actually setting up trials and creating one from scratch just so they could sign him. At 11, Neymar was already being paid a wage, and it was serious money. He even went on trials at Real Madrid and even ended up registering for them, but they did everything they could to make him stay. The kid was just homesick, and his dad convinced Santos to pay 1 million reais signing bonus and just brought the kid back to Brazil. Over the next couple of years, despite being just 15, he was playing against the oldest kids in the academy and still managed to get called up to the Brazil's under-17 national team. Santos wasted no time, offering him a contract soon after his 17th birthday and moving him to the first team. He ended up destroying all his senior teammates in training. Even the manager joked about calling him up for the next game, and Neymar's response was, "I am more than ready." With the result tied at 0-0, the 59th minute, the entire stadium, knowing how talented he was, began calling for Neymar's name, asking the coach to bring him on, and well, he obeyed. And Santos suddenly looked lively again, flipping the game on his head and taking the win. From there on out, he made one more appearance coming from the bench, and suddenly he made 15 consecutive starts for the club. And even though over the second half of the season, the coach did take a step back when it comes to that, by the end of the year, not only had he won the award for the best young player at the Paulista Championship, but he had made it to the final of the competition, where he went head-to-head with Phenomenal himself, who unfortunately for Neymar, scored twice and took the win. Regardless, the following year, with Lance Robinho by his side, Neymar would take it all to the next level, taking the Paulista by storm with 14 goals and 5 assists in 19 matches, but above all, scoring 2 in the final to give Santos the title and himself the award for the best player of the tournament, all while going an even more upset run in the Copa Brazil, scoring 11 and assisting 7 in just 8 games. At one point, going on a run that saw him get 14 goal contributions in 3 matches, including a 5-goal haul in the final one, eventually taking the title as well as the competition's top scorer. Things started to go downhill when the Paladina being surprised before hitting the ball to trick the goalkeeper into diving too early was banned, leading to Neymar miss a few penalties, which eventually led his coach Dorival to order him mid-game to let one of his teammates take one instead, which caused Neymar to freak out and begin cursing out the coach from inside the pitch. And even the Brazil national team manager decided not to call him for the senior team, calling him a little spoiled brat. Robin has the opportunity to see Neymar and Robinho on the same page, and to be fair, Neymar did apologize. Though he was called out for the Brazilian national team a second time, it would be with the under-20s that he would make history, starting the Sudamericano with 4 goals in a game and going all the way, taking the title and the top scorer award, having scored more than twice as many goals as anyone else. Draw. He was too good to be playing this youth tournament, starting it all off by scoring the goal against Colo Colo. That would end them qualification to the knockout stage, where he put out one of the most decisive performances of all time, first assisting the only goal versus Club America to put them in the quarters, where he would assist one goal and score the other as Santos beat Once Caldas 2-1. In the semi-final, the story would repeat itself again as Neymar assisted only goal in the home leg and then scored third and decisive goal in their second leg, 3-goal draw. And of course, do I even need to say it? Neymar was the player of the tournament. And as if this performance weren't iconic enough, on his very next game for Santos, Neymar would put on his most iconic performance ever in the white shirts, going head to head with Ronaldinho as he faced Flamengo. Oddly enough, the match started with 2 goals by Borges, with Neymar assisting the second just 16 minutes into the game, before scoring quite simply one of the greatest goals just 10 minutes later to put Santos in front 3-0. However, Flamengo wasn't going to let it slide that easily, coming back to tie the match, with Ronaldo scoring the first and assisting the third. This would already have made the game a blockbuster, but not only have I not mentioned the fact that the game was far from over, with Neymar putting Santos in front with another great goal, but before Ronaldinho led Flamengo yet to another comeback, scoring 2 more to complete the hat-trick. But don't worry about Neymar, he also got a reward for his performance, the Puskas Award for his first goal, becoming the youngest ever player to win the title, eventually being outdone by Daniel Sorry. In the Club World Cup, no matter how well he played, there was nothing he could have done to take the trophy, and Santos made it to the final only to be destroyed 4-0 by Barcelona. At least he did finish the year on a great note, being nominated for the Ballon d'Or for the first time, immediately going into the top 10, despite the fact that he was only the second ever player to get nominated while playing in South America. That's just how impressive his season had been. Regardless, the following year, he didn't hold back either, putting numbers on the board like never before, winning his third consecutive Police Championship with 20 goals and 8 assists in 18 matches in an observed format that saw him be involved in 74% of the goals scored by Santos, the 7 matches that proceeded to the final. In total, 13 goals and 4 assists over that period, and that wasn't even the scariest part. It all began when Bolivar coach was trying to anger Neymar by saying, "Neymar, I don't even know who that is," in the pre-match interview, and Raw, Neymar didn't take it too well. After losing the first leg, it even became worse to the point that Neymar publicly warned Bolivar that the second leg, he had it coming for them, and he meant it. Let's just say, 6 minutes in, Neymar had grabbed an assist to level that great score, and 60 minutes after that, he had scored to put Santos in front before letting loose and starting what was simply one of the greatest sporting humiliations of all time, scoring another 6 minutes later, and then assisting one more just 8 minutes after that, eventually even assisting one more to total 2 goals and 3 assists for the match, as Santos demolished Bolivar 8-0, the biggest win in the Libertadores match since 1970. Unfortunately, 2 rounds later, Corinthians ended Santos' charge as Neymar's only goal wasn't enough to pull them through to the final once again, but he still walked away with the most prestigious award available in Brazil, Bola de Ouro, an award that serves as the purpose of literally taking him out of competition for any other award, considering him simply too good to even be compared to other players. To put into perspective, this award has only ever been given to Pele, not Ronaldo, not Ronaldinho, and not even Zico, only Pele and Neymar. Following one more nomination to the Ballon d'Or, Neymar went into his 5th season at Santos, becoming their first ever player to make it to 5 consecutive Police Championship final, and even being named the competition's best player despite losing the final match. Then moving on to the Confederations Cup in Brazil, scoring or assisting in every single match, taking the top scorer and the best player awards as well as the trophy by defeating the mighty Spain of the early 2010s, winning their 29 games unbeaten streak. Still, no matter how promising that season was looking to be, having scored 138 goals and provided 65 assists in 230 matches for Santos, winning a total of 6 trophies and more than 70 awards in the span of 4.5 years. The onslaught of a millionaire offers by European clubs finally became too much to handle for Neymar, rejecting Chelsea, Real and Juve in favor of Barcelona. To this day, no one is sure of the real value of his transfer, with Barcelona reporting it as a mere 57 million. However, with Real Madrid president Florentino Perez claiming Santos had asked him for at least 150 million, I guess it's not hard to imagine how expensive he might have been. But one thing is sure, whatever amount they paid, it was worth it.